Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury, and thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is TeacherCast Podcast episode number 197. We have a fantastic guest with us talking all about his brand new documentary that recently hit on behalf of EduMatch. We're going to be talking all things Edupreneurs. We're going to be talking about branding. We're going to be talking about websites. We're going to be talking about getting your name out there so you can make a little bit of money to support yourself, support your family, and support the great things that you like to do in your, ready for this? In your spare time. We want to know what you guys think about this topic. We've been doing a lot of work and a lot of shows recently all about branding, all about creating a name for yourself, all about building some kind of an identity that you are going to be recognized for. And we want to say thank you out there to everybody who's taken time to email us, leave us a voicemail, and we want to hear from you. Of course, you can always find us on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voicemail over at teachercast.net/voicemail. And email us over at feedback@teachercast.net. If you are looking for a great website, we want to remind you guys that we have a brand new channel that just opened up over at educationalwebdesign.com. We are here to help you guys build your educational brand today over at educationalwebdesign.com. Step over and check out that stuff. And of course, there's other great podcasts available on TeacherCast. If you are a tech coach or looking to be a tech coach, our Ask the Tech Coach Mastermind is the perfect place for you guys to visit. You can, of course, go over to teachercast.net/mastermind to learn how you guys can take advantage of our spring discount and get $50, $100, or even $150 off your professional development package this year. Check it out over on teachercast.net/mastermind and take a little bit of time this spring to invest in your professional development. We would love to have you join the TeacherCast Tech Coaches Network. Now, I want to ask you guys a question. I like starting off with questions, especially like this. My question here is simple. Would you like to make a buck? Would you like to make a few bucks? How would you like to set yourself up and your family to be put in a position where money comes in by doing the thing that you love, by putting together resources so that way other people can not only enjoy them, but hire you to create them? My guest today has a fantastic new documentary out called The Edupreneur. He's also the host of the Dr. Will podcast. I want to bring together Dr. Will. Dr. Will, how are you today? Welcome back to the TeacherCast podcast.
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you for bringing me on.
Thank you so much for being here. It is great to see you. How are things down in the great state of Mississippi?
Things are getting a little getting warmer.
It is getting a little warmer, and you know what's getting warmer out there? The fact that this is the season where we are fired up for all the great conferences. Of course, a few weeks ago, we had the Q conference, we had ASCD, and all sites right now are set for Philadelphia, where we are going to be getting together for the ISTE conference, where we are looking forward to seeing you guys. TeacherCast is going to certainly be there. We've got two great sessions, one on Saturday, all about podcasting, and then on Monday, we're going to be doing a second podcasting session. If you guys are looking forward to bringing podcasting into your classroom, check out podcastingwithstudents.com. We've got some great stuff for you. And Will, before we get into talking about your podcast, are you excited that it's professional development season? Are you excited for all the great conferences coming up this summer?
Yes. The only downfall, the only thing I don't like about it is it's like bam, 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 bam.
It's exciting though, right? Everybody's out there. Everybody's meeting each other. And This is the time of year where you always ask that question, how do you talk to somebody that maybe you know on Twitter, right? Like maybe you see somebody on Twitter with 1,000 million, gabillion Twitter followers, and you're like, I don't know if I can talk to that somebody. I don't know what that person's like. How do I handle all that realm? And then the other question that always pops up is, what happens if I have an idea to get up there on that stage? How do I put myself as that presenter, that featured speaker, that keynote? How do I do all those things? Now, you recently had those same questions, Will, and you decided to create a documentary called The Edupreneur, and it recently launched. It is pretty awesome. And you can find out more information over at teachercast.net/edupreneur. Dr. Will, tell us a little bit about this fantastic new documentary.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, The Edupreneur features 8 educators who are out there doing big things. They're writing books, they're writing articles, they're presenting at conferences, they're presenting at different schools. They are traveling across the country and around the world. And they are, as we like to say, making the impact in the income. It follows their journey and explores their lives and their careers as educators and entrepreneurs. And the people are very forthright in what they say and what they talk about, whether it's family or how they learned the business, how they got into the business, and sort of their challenges and successes along the way.
And how did this whole thing come together? What was the idea behind it? How did you select it? And who's in the video?
Well, who's in it? It's Angela Myers, Catlin Tucker, Abby Futrell, Dr. I. Zong, Dr. Robin Jackson, Jeff Bradbury, Eric Schenniger, Tom Murray.
You've got some great people in there that clearly are, names that people would know about, names that people have seen on keynotes, maybe names on books that you might have on the shelf. I bet they've got some great stories in here of not only how they got started, but what being an edupreneur means to them and their families.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. When I was trying to pick up my lineup, there were certain people I had in mind. And part of it was people that I knew were doing the work, people that I knew were successful, people that I knew I had already had relationships with, whether they had been on my conference or I've had a chance to meet them at conferences and we've kicked it outside of the conference. And then there were people who, when it comes to ed tech and Twitter and consulting, these are some household names. And I wanted people to move this documentary. So whether you were not necessarily a fan of entrepreneurship, but maybe you're a fan of Angela Myers and you want to go, oh, Angela Myers is in this? Maybe I need to check this out. So that was sort of my thinking behind looking for my cast.
Now, let's take a step back here because, many people are looking at this word. How would you define the term edupreneur? How do you know if you are an edupreneur?
For me, and I didn't create the term, but for me, an edupreneur is about transformation over the transaction. And the thought came to me because when I started looking at how I could get bigger, how I can get better as an entrepreneur, and I started looking at all of these videos by some of these well-known entrepreneurs and some of these people who are talking about delivering courses. And that is something that I want to sort of focus on in my journey. And I was seeing stuff like, build a course in 7 days and do this. And I'm thinking, I'm an educator. You are not going to build a really good online course in 7 days. That's just BS. And when I started also looking at what they were doing was video, PDF, video, PDF. And it wasn't the exchange, right? Like their courses wasn't made for the students to get to know each other, to learn from each other. And it wasn't meant for the teacher to guide them through the process on the other end for the transformation. It was about the transaction. And so for me, being an educator, it is always about the transformation. Are you a different person? Are you a better person when you're done? And that's for my definition of what an edupreneur is.
It is that transformation that's really important, right? Somebody that sits there and says, I have an idea, and then actually takes those steps and tries, right? It's not easy. I know with my own story here, we created a little logo, we created a podcast, people started to listen, the channel kind of grew, I got some guest posts, I got some sponsorships. Next thing you know, people are like, you know what, you should do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, why? Like, you've got a business here. And I'm like, no, I don't. Well, next thing you know, you kind of realize that you do. And that's one way other people I know after being a part of this documentary, they had the vision for, look, I got kids. Maybe teaching didn't work out, or I want to get out of the classroom, or whatever the situation was. I'm going to try to make a run at this to support my family, either as a first job or a second job or any kind of a side hustle like that. There really isn't any real way of doing this. And I think after watching this documentary, that's the best thing that I've taken away from. There is no right answer. There is no correct path. It really is trial and error. And sometimes you strike on the first one, and sometimes you strike out on the first couple. And everybody there has their own story. I love the way that you put this documentary together. Talk to us a little bit about the creation process. Did you get everybody in the same room? Did you do them individually? How was it to actually get people to open up and talk about these subjects? Because that's not easy.
Everyone was done separately. And basically what I did is what I do with all my podcasts is I come up with my questions that I want to ask beforehand. And then I shared the questions with Sara, and she looked them over, and she said, what about this? Oh, that's good. That's good. And so once we was like, this is a solid foundation, let's share it with the people. And then I started to set up the interviews with everyone. And the interesting thing about it is Angela Myers was the first person I interviewed. And from that first interview, I knew something special was happening. She set me on fire so much during the interview that I didn't know how to hold myself back, because I knew that this thing was going to be recorded. So I couldn't go or whatever, or what I normally do, when I'm interviewing people on my podcast. But, when she was talking, about her experiences and what she has been through. Like one time she dropped a note on me. She was like, people think you get paid for that hour, right? You don't get paid. I don't get paid for the hour. I get paid for my 28 years of experience. Oh, okay. That makes you think about your rates differently. That make you think about your brand in a different way. And so once these interviews started to happen, and I just started knocking them out. And Catelyn Tucker was the last interview I did. And I'm going to be honest with you. That was like one of the interviews that I was like, oh my gosh, she's like my Oprah, my special get, right? Because I love what she's doing, and I love how she had carved out that niche of blended learning and has grown it in a way that is always refreshing. It's not like blended learning. You're like, ooh. She always has a new spin, something better to offer, something tangible, to help teachers solve their problems. And so I was like, okay, I got to get you on. And so when we did that interview, she didn't let me down. She brought more gems. And after they were done, I just shared all of the files with Dr. Sara, founder, CEO of EduMatch. And she looked at the footage, and then we talked about how was this footage going to get put together. And we knew that we didn't want it to be a bunch of, just talking heads. And that's when we sort of had a plan for transitions, cutaways, and those things, so that it would feel faster when you're watching it than it could have been just watching people talk for 120 minutes or 80 minutes. Yeah.
And I love the format, right? And really the format is, a couple minutes with every one of your edupreneurs. You get a chance to be the host. You get a chance to narrate throughout the entire thing. Of course, if you're looking for more information about this, you can check it out over on teachercast.net/edupreneur. We're going to have all the links in our show notes over here on episode number 197, including all the links to where we can find out more information about EduMatch. We're going to talk a little bit about that soon, but I wanted to ask you this. The film, as we're recording, this is a few weeks old. We've had a lot of people taking a look at it. What are some of the feedback that you've gotten? I personally think it's great, but I've had a little bit to do with this. But what kind of feedback are you getting from people who might be seeing it for the first time?
They're loving it. Whether it's Mark Barnes or other people, some of the feedback that I'm really getting that I'm very happy about is when people are telling me I am learning about these people as real people, like they are human to me now. We've heard about the Twitterati or Twitter stars or whatever, but these people felt like I knew them on another level. And then other feedback that I was giving of, wow, this really was an education for me, right? So this told me that there is some growth for me as an edupreneur. And one dude was like, I'm just not simply ready to go full time with this, because, when someone tells you I'm on the road for 30 weeks out of the year, and, I have to tell my children I'm not going to be here for that event, that one person who saw it was like, wow, that let me know I'm not ready to go full time with this, because I don't want to be away from home that much. So everything's been positive.
And that's an interesting point, because many people do have this idea that it would be great to be able to do X, Y, and Z and do all the conferences and stuff like that, until they're sitting there alone on a Friday in their hotel, editing podcasts. Not that I'm reminiscing about anything like that. And you realize that, okay, you do have to find that important balance, right? So, it's just a matter of things are good, things are moving, but at the same time, everything here has to be put into perspective, right? Edupreneurship is great. And as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, I think there's a place for trying things like that. What did you learn from this whole process? Maybe about the movie, maybe about edupreneurship, and I think most importantly, did you learn anything about yourself with your journey through listening to everything?
As far as myself, I learned to stick to my gut, and I don't want to write a book, right? And I know a lot of people who are writing some great books, but I don't want to write one. But I didn't know how I was going to get a certain product or something out there. And so the fact that I could do a documentary, I'm like, this is cool. Like, I've always wanted to do a documentary. For those who don't know, I actually have a degree in radio, television, and film. And so to be able to do this, and sort of my way, and to tell a story that energizes me, that really gets me excited, and I get to have these wonderful conversations with these people on this next level, I said, wow. And again, I did it my way. It wasn't me following the path of someone else. This was me charting my own path. I don't know of a documentary like this ever being done from any of these EdTech publications we know of, right? And so I was like, oh, this is cool. And to do this. And from the people, I learned that you got to do what you do and not get caught up in what other people are doing. Don't measure your success by other people. Don't copy sort of other people, and do it for the right reasons. Like, so if you chase the money, you're not going to find what you're looking for. But if you're actually chasing to make the impact, then the income will come.
Friends, before we move on with our show, I wanted to let you guys know I have been in education now for almost 20 years, and I've seen the changes some students have come to face every single day, whether it's going through school hungry, not being able to see a doctor when they're sick, or not getting the proper rest at night. These challenges make it hard for kids to focus on their learning. I remember a story of a student who came to my office one day and she could barely stay awake due to all the circumstances happening around her at home that were beyond her control. I didn't know what I could do, and I wanted to be able to help her out in any way that I could. Thankfully, Concordia University in Portland is leading the way with their 3 to PhD program that helps to combat students' fears, freeing them to pursue their highest dreams. They're revolutionizing education by creating a holistic model that provides groceries, healthcare, and even clothing to students right here on campus, helping them thrive and helping our communities strengthen and grow. Concordia's College of Education offers online and on-campus programs where students have the opportunity to learn about a more compassionate approach to education and see how nurturing the whole student can lead to amazing things. To learn more about how you can help students conquer their monsters and achieve their highest dreams, visit cu-portland.edu/let's conquer. That's cu-portland.edu/let's conquer. And use the hashtag #NatureEducateGrow. And we are back talking to our good friend, Dr. Will, all about his brand new documentary called The Edupreneur. Of course, you can find out more information about it over at teachercast.net/edupreneur. And, you know, we before our little break here, we were talking about your vision for everything. We were talking about how you got inspired to create this and how you've been working hand in hand with our good friend, Dr. Sara Thomas. Talk to us a little bit about Sara. She is absolutely amazing, and she created the EduMatch network. Now, for anybody out there who doesn't know Sara or doesn't know EduMatch, who is Sara, and more importantly, what is EduMatch? What is the mission behind the whole EduMatch mission? Right? She's got a lot of amazing things going on there.
Yes, Sara is dope. Like, she is a genuine, honest person, you know, just real cool, laid back, giving spirit, loving spirit. She loves people, loves education, loves celebrating others' successes. It has been like phenomenal to work with her on this project. She created EduMatch, and I don't want to, you know, speak for her, but from my vantage point is to create a space for other educators to connect and grow and learn from one another across spaces, you know. So we hear now about the internet and how, you know, Dr. I says this with her podcast, A Classroom Without Walls, where in terms of being connected because of the internet, you can be connected to educators from all over the world and be able to learn from them and grow with them and build these relationships that are not only awesome online, but they can extend offline. And her network is vast. And then she has this awesome group on Voxer that is very active. And it's so active that if you were to kind of step away from it and you come back, you'll realize, wow, man, I miss, you know, 100 messages.
There are days where I don't look at that Voxer group, and you're looking at 230 messages sometime in a day. That group is awesome. Of course, you can find out more information there over at EduMatchDr. You know, she's doing some good stuff over there and supporting, you know, edupreneurs, supporting teachers all around. And we just can't say enough great things about what Sara Thomas has done over the last couple of years over at the EduMatch network. But you know, look, enough about EduMatch. I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing, because you are an edupreneur yourself, right? How last time we caught up with you, you were doing some pretty awesome things with your podcast. How is the Dr. Will Show these days?
The Dr. Will Show is awesome. I'm having a blast.
Wait, is it awesome or is it dope?
Hey, it's all of that. It's all of that. So yeah, of course it's dope, but I'm having a great time with it. You know, season 5 has launched, and I'm still doing the same thing in terms of focusing on personal development and entrepreneurship, and trying to bring on some great educators to talk about their experiences about creating a business. You know, how did they get to this point? When did they know it was the right time to do it? How did they learn the business piece? And what were their motivations in certain things? So, and then I like to get in sort of personal stories and even ask them, about their work in terms of, what do you do when you show up to a school and you are forward thinking and you get there and educators are like, I don't like technology. You know, so to talk about that when you're trying to change people's mindset and they don't want to be bothered. So it's some wonderful conversations that I'm having this year, which I hope to this year go beyond the downloads and plays I had last year.
We did our episode. We had you on a few months ago talking about that stuff. We're going to link everything over here in our show notes. This is TeacherCast Podcast, episode number 197. Will, there's got to be a place where people can go to learn more about the great things that you're doing, download everything. Will, where can people go to learn, purchase, and check out this amazing documentary, The Edupreneur?
Teachercast.net/Edupreneur.
And we're going to have all the great links on that stuff. Dr. Will, I want to say thank you for stopping by. Thank you for having TeacherCast as part of that documentary. It is a great thing. Guys, seriously, if you're looking for something to do this spring here, check out the documentary. It really is good. What's the running time on it?
It's 80 minutes.
80 minutes. It is a nice, long, action-packed documentary.
Yeah.
And not only that, we've got some neat things that are going to be coming out. We've got an online course that Dr. Will and I are putting together on branding, on being an entrepreneur. So if you're looking to learn a little bit more about, building your website, creating a brand, putting your social media together, building great slide decks, all of those different topics, we want to hear from you. And the best way to do that is reaching out to us over on Twitter at TeacherCast, or leaving us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail. Tell us what you're interested in. That way, by the time we launch everything, we will have the answers to those questions and topics that you guys are seeking. So there's a lot of neat things that are going on. And if you're looking for more information on this topic, we have got plenty of branding and self-help and self-entrepreneur type podcasts that we've been putting out. Of course, you can check everything over at teachercast.net. Will, thank you one more time so much for your time today.
I appreciate you bringing me on.
And we, of course, appreciate you guys for being here, a part of the TeacherCast Educational Network. And thank you so much for making us your home for professional development. On behalf of Dr. Will, EduMatch, and everybody here on the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.